Hey everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. Today I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, who just got a new camera, Geoff Blanchard. And we also have with us today...
Good afternoon.
Yeah, he didn't sleep at all last night. He was playing with the camera all night, I'm sure. Anyway, and we've also got with us Juan Carlos Bagnell from... Oh gosh, so many places. SomeGadgetGuy, that's one of them. And he does, we'll get into this in a couple of minutes, but he's ubiquitous in the world of broadcasting, radio, and internet broadcasting. And let's get going. And we are back, and hey, there he is in the central position of power. Hey, Juan Carlos, how are you?
We appeared in the middle of your show.
I know, it's great.
The power of internet.
How you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm really stoked to join you guys. I've been having a lot of fun going back through your archive of interviews and episodes and stuff. So I'm honored that you asked me to join.
Oh, good. You still came on after all that. Wow, I'm impressed now. You know, we do kind of a variation of what you do. We do not so much gadgets, though we've done, you know, I mean, anything's a gadget nowadays. We do a lot with cameras, video, audio. But I think when we first started the show, we did tons on cell phones and other things, but we kind of started going towards the major hobbies or professional things that we do. And it's been fun. And we've been watching you for, like I said, Geoff heard about you recently. And I think I've been watching you, I don't know, it's been 5-6 years, maybe more. You've been on for quite a while.
I get around. I'm trying to keep busy. So it's really all about just trying to maintain a good discussion with a community. And to your point, I think there has been something in the air recently, shifting from just like talking about a gadget for the sake of talking about a gadget and more, I'm going to be spending my time. I'm going to be spending my money. What can I do with this? What can I get out of this? and I think that's become the more valuable conversation of late.
Yeah.
It's how I got started with audio recording and through consumer electronics. And now to today, it's becoming an advocate. I think some of the people on my YouTube channel would say it's zealot for trying to maximize that price performance, maximize that investment.
No, you do a good job. And you also have the Newegg show.
Yeah.
That you do. That's weekly. I think Tuesdays, what is it, 10 a.m. if I'm not wrong?
Thursdays.
Thursdays, not Tuesday. It's 10 a.m. though, right?
Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific, yeah. And that was sort of born out of continuing that conversation. Obviously, Newegg is a more retail-y outlet, so we are hoping you'll buy stuff.
You know, the sales you've got, I was watching your latest one this morning, and I was going, $480 for a 1080 GT. Wow, that was a good price.
Well, this is a really interesting time in a number of different tech enthusiast communities, gaming communities, smartphone communities, production communities, especially if you enjoy your life behind a mixing console or behind an editing deck. I think we're at a crossroads for a number of different places, and when we see that, you know, like a graphics cards transition, a new smartphone transition, or a new camera transition, the exciting things can happen between old gear and new gear. So
yeah, it's getting interesting. Definitely getting interesting. And I miss you on Pocketnow. I have to say that. One day I looked, I go, where is he? Wait a minute, he's gone.
You know, it was again, because there's that smell in the air. I think a lot of the traditional outlets are looking at how to transition, how to stay relevant, where to take their conversations. And my relationship with Pocketnow just didn't seem to mesh with where they wanted to take the channel. And I wasn't really providing a great value for the core fans on that. So
really?
I think it was...
See, I would disagree. I would disagree because when you left, I thought, man, there's a black hole there. It's just not the same anymore. So, you know, to each his own, right?
No, I definitely appreciate you saying that. It was... the realities and the economies of producing specific types of content weigh on whether or not that content.
That's true. Well, no, it was funny because I think you came after, is it David Fisher? I think
Michael Fisher.
Michael Fisher.
Yeah.
Now him, I didn't care for as much. He was more snarky and not as positive. And you're funny. I mean, you always had a good sense of humor, and see, I enjoyed that. It's like, I've been in the tech industry since, oh God, I don't know how old, probably teens.
Michael Fisher's my bro though, because he was definitely more. We both are theater kids. Yeah, okay. We went to school. We went to college for performance.
Oh, interesting.
And then our lives parallel in the most different ways possible, where he became more of the narrative storyteller, voiceover actor, and I became more I like telling people what to do, voiceover casting director.
Right.
And I mean, on opposite coasts too. He's got more of an East Coast mentality. I definitely wanted more of the commercial scene out here on the West Coast. And so there's so much between us that we share, common language, common platforms, common educations. And yet I think, to your point, we couldn't be more different in style if we tried.
Yeah. Now, I didn't and it's funny. I didn't dislike him. I just liked your approach better. It was more fun. We're in this all the time. So when you hear somebody just telling you this stuff, and he did have some good narrative, but I like the humor, because it's like, hey, he's actually having fun with tech. I like that. Especially there's so much to laugh about in this industry.
And sometimes to laugh to keep from crying. I'm so glad I was able to jump into this live stream. I just got out of 2 hours in traffic for an upcoming video. But I have the ridiculousness of my day today is I just got the notification that my amazing new iPhone was just delivered to my other office. And I was way more excited to go spend essentially 4 hours in traffic today to get ear molds done for an upcoming headphone review that I've got than I am about this beautiful new iPhone.
That's funny.
And it's the hilariousness of just the different aspects of our industry kind of coming together with living life and being a citizen in Los Angeles.
It's funny. We had a guy on last week who's a friend of ours, Curtis Judd. He's up in the Park City area in Utah, and he goes, I just bought a new headset. We're like, what'd you buy? He goes, well, it's kind of expensive. And we're thinking, you probably spent $500, $600, $800, $2,400. He got some sort of Sennheiser glass. It's got a glass.
Serious headphones.
Serious stuff. And he goes, it sounds really nice. I go, for $2,400, it should give you a massage too. I mean, that's a lot of money for a headset.
Well, see, I've actually started approaching the opposite side of it. I'm trying to make a professional audio kit less intimidating to general consumer.
Yep.
And some of the options where, you start talking about like in-ear monitors, and general consumers start getting eye glazy. But we're in an era right now where I think companies get to maximize their profits by kind of footing the bill to consumers. I think a lot of Apple's more recent moves in this generation of iPhones are almost consumer punitive. And you pay top dollar for a completely incomplete product that you then have to fill in all the gaps on your own. And their solutions, I don't necessarily feel are the best in terms of like consumer health. So if I'm gonna have to spend extra money on top of my smartphone purchase, what are some solutions to really improve on that? Because I think in another generation of tech consumers, we're gonna be in for a rude shock about what the long-term costs of using some of this stuff are.
Yeah, not to mention go ahead, Geoff.
One about you saying making things a bit cheaper and a bit more affordable to people. Like you said, the in-ear monitors. I've got the Shure in-ear monitors, and you can get the Shure ones, the ones that the proper professionals use for $500, or these ones for $99. Well, I think I can still hear you speak. That's all I need to do. So why do I need a $500? And it's still the same brand, and they look the same.
Well, Geoff, I had those $500 Shures, and I stepped on it once. I got stuck on my chair, and when I stepped to right myself from falling, I killed the headset. I was like, oh man, never bought. And now I've got the same ones you do. I think, Geoff, they're like $90, and they're great.
Really trying to demystify some of that. We don't seem to be bothered with prices on 4K TVs. We jump through hoops. We spend a ton of effort on nicer cameras, on better lenses, on graphics cards to drive all this stuff. If you're a part of the gaming PC build culture puts a ton of effort into how pretty you can make things look. And then most consumers just seem generally fine with whatever can fart out some kind of sound in that system, and it doesn't take much. You know, when we talk about like the audio processing hardware versus the video graphics processing, like a 20th the amount of money can really treat your ears for something special.
Yep.
And I've even been trying to dig into some of these ultra low cost solutions. Like I did a video for the KZ-ES4. They're monitor style earbuds. They cost $20. They have replaceable cables. You can get a Bluetooth adapter kit for them. At $20, we're into impulse, well into impulse buy territory. That these earbuds handily stomp on anything that comes in the box for free with your phone, and they're healthier for you to listen to for being interaurals.
Right.
So that's a win-win for me. And then if you step up the food chain, you can improve that experience once you get a handle on what it is that you like and what you want to listen for. Those kinds of conversations I find woefully absent from the current consumer conversation.
That's interesting. Now, there's one thing I've been reading about and hearing about, which is sort of a controversy right now, and that's 5G. A lot of people are saying it's going to melt our brains. It's going to cause, you know, let's get realistic. Phones do have a field. It's an electromagnetic field that can actually cause some grief. 4G, not too bad. And people are complaining that, or people are saying that they're getting tumors or whatever, brain issues.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know how much that's true or not, but they said 5G is actually coming a lot stronger. Do you have any opinions on that? Anything? Do you think there's any truth to that, or is it just conspiracy theory crazies?
The difficulty is I need to be very careful and very measured in any conversation like that.
Yeah.
So apologies to your audience that I'm going to be so precious with my language here.
Oh, no, I don't blame you.
Because I want to try and avoid sounding, you know, like an anti-vaxxer or someone who's going to fly off the handle with a minimum of evidence but strong feelings regarding some kind of sensitive conversation for a number of people in various audiences. But the concerns I always have when it comes to the consumer electronics space, both politically and with digital health, you know, your health as you're surrounded by a personal area network of gadgets, are these market trends. These market trends change far faster than our ability to write laws for them and our ability to study trends. So when we look at the conversation surrounding cell phones, the potential for radiation absorption by the human condition, or even just the heat, there was some amazing research done back when we had Nokia candy bar phones that had just started about having a hot computing device applied directly to the skin could simulate a sick response, a feverish response in the human body. As we're starting to examine that information, the landscape changes far faster than the examination of that condition. So what we started examining 10 years ago does not in any way, shape, or form resemble the landscape today. And by the time we get a handle on what 4G could possibly do to the human species, we'll be well into other methods of data transmission, 5G, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So my concern isn't do I have a strong feeling one way or the other that smartphones might cause cancer? I haven't seen any compelling evidence to suggest that it does directly, but we're looking at data from surveys and from medical studies that's years out of date. And by the time we catch up to where we are today, we'll be years out of date again. And we need to find some way of bridging that conversation without creating a panic, without a knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
And that's not something that humans are good at. We're really good at reacting without all of the data. Exactly. And so, in being really precious with my language, I hope that we can have some conversations about this, because politically and healthy conversations are running out of room with the commerce of building out networks, creating these devices, and throwing them to consumers far faster and far more aggressively than we can respond to them.
Well, there's also a lot of, if you look at something like, let's just say diet drinks, and there's this whole thing about they're going to kill us. I've known people who've been on diet drinks for 40 years and they're fine. They're healthier and they smoke and this, and you just go, wow, how do you do it? So I don't know. No. I think a lot of it has to do with our genetics. Are we healthy? Are we not? What's going on? And some people who are the most unhealthy just keep going like nothing.
It is one of the tricky aspects of this, in that science is really good at examining individual conditions and then controlling for individual stimulus. And so when you're pointing that out, you can look at guys who smoke into their 90s and they seem to be fine. We also do need to start having conversations in the scientific community as to how to apply granular minutia, granular data from these studies into a holistic conversation about an individual's health. And that's it's very easy for me to just say that. It is very difficult for the medical community to absorb that down to the level where a general practitioner, a GP doctor, can have a meaningful conversation with a patient when they also only get 5 minutes in the room with each individual as they have to go through their day. There's so many parts in that chain, from the theory, or I should say the hypothesis, to the application, to the study, to the disseminating the results of that study, and then getting that into the hands of consumers. And I think this is also where social media defeats us, is because you can get a piece of data, run to an opinion, put out a headline that an article won't be read, and echo chamber that extremely aggressively, and that doesn't really serve the conversation. It doesn't really help educate, and we have some difficult fights to fight ahead of us in both the advocacy. I would consider myself an advocate, not a scientist, but then as I approach the scientific discussion, I even have difficulty untangling, like, where are we? What's current? And when
it's also hard. It's also hard because a lot of the scientific community will prostitute itself for anything. As long as you get money.
I'm so sorry that you billed me as being funny and that this is what we launched into.
I know. We just went into. I don't know
this
why.
Guy's funny. Let me tell you how you're all going to die from cell phone radiation. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. but it is sort of funny because if you look at science, there's science, but they'll make up stuff too. Everybody seems to get a scientist willing to back up whatever story they have for tech, and you just go, okay.
Well, that's where I point back to the social media condition of this, the tribalism of it. It's really easy to find an individual who will back your play, but the thing I like about science is that it has proven to be fairly self-correcting.
Usually, with time.
With time, exactly. Even when we've gotten things tremendously wrong, in say like the diet conversation from the 50s to the 80s to today, we've got a lot of things phenomenally wrong. Like, people died wrong when it came to just a healthy eating lifestyle.
Sure.
And we're still untangling the fallout from some very bad decisions in previous generations.
Yeah, eat donuts, you'll live forever.
Well, the bottom of the food pyramid just used to be like bread. That kind of conversation, I think, hurt people. But over generations of better study, of better application, and of better conversations, we have been correcting that. But it's a spectrum. It's a process. It's not an endpoint A to B. It's a shade of gray that we're sort of murkily wading through until we get to a better place than we were the day before. Now, to your point, though, because it's so easy to pick out one individual who has an agenda or operates because of some sort of profit motivator, that message can spread way faster than the time it takes and the energy it takes to correct that kind of misinformation. And that's, again, one of those challenges that we need to examine, even down to YouTube entertainers. When I make a claim about a product, or when I share an experience that I had with a product, it needs to be balanced against not just how I felt about it, but what I say. How will that be interpreted by a viewer? And then what will that contradict with my peers in the YouTube community, in the tech community? And even that can be a very difficult conversation when someone has an assertion locked in their brain and no evidence to support it. Then it starts to feel like it's an attack. And I get a lot of angry comments just from saying, like, oh, I didn't have this experience with the camera, or I liked this and I thought that was fine. And that flies in the face of something else that they'd heard. And then I get angry walls of text in my YouTube replies just because I've deigned to have a different experience. Well,
it's funny. I don't know, about 2-3 months ago, I put out a video about an eye treatment I'm getting. I have a partial blindness in the eyes. I have retinitis pigmentosa, and I was talking about a brand new red laser treatment, and it's been amazing. I went from having like almost 90 or 100 degree angle of view as far as vision to I'm back to 180. And what a difference. And that was in 1 hour. 1 hour of treatment. And what this treatment does is it generates stem with the more you do it, it generates stem cells in the eye that go there and fix the eye up by itself. And it's amazing. And this is new. Oh man, did I get hate mail from people who have the same disease going, "You're full of it, blah, blah, blah." I go, all I can tell you is my experience has been very good. This is a bona fide retinal specialist, and it came out of Harvard and Cambridge and MIT and other places saying, hey, this has real promise for the future, not only for eyes, but for other parts of the body and health in general, because they're finding that red lasers and other things, including electromagnetic fields, can stimulate the body's health, the health mechanism, regrow itself, if you will. That's pretty cool. But no, it's funny. I can only imagine what kind of hate mail you get.
I know. I'll save. We should have like a whole other episode where I can detail some of like the death threats that I've gotten on social media.
Really? Yeah, I can see it.
You're talking about that. Even just trying to stay current, that notion already gels with some of the more recent literature that we've seen on things like eye health and blue light.
Blue light.
That there was a recent study that there is a correlation. Scientists have yet to confirm a causation, but there does seem to be a correlation between the absorption of blue light and artificial white and blue light and the process in the eye which creates toxic substances that break down materials in the eye. So it could lead to generation of the eye, of the capabilities of the eye. So, I mean, we're starting to dip our toes into this. We're dipping our toes into this kind of study 15 years too late for people who were early adopters of this kind of technology. We're seeing that humongous rise in hearing loss in teens and young adults over the last 10 years. The last 10 years has been a trend of consumer tech evolution that, you can soundtrack your day 24/7, 365 on the worst cheap earbuds that come supplied with whatever gadget.
Right.
We're too late for them. We're 10 years too late for that individual to prevent them from losing their hearing. We're 15 years too late, 20 years too late for the individual who stares into computer monitors all day, every day. But we can correct. We can course correct now. The best time to have started doing this research was 20 years ago. The second best time to start doing this research is today. So we can at least try to improve the condition, try to improve that experience for people coming up now, and hopefully that's the type of research that will be done.
Geoff?
Juan, I was just seeing one of you. I've been relatively new to your channel, say this week, because it still amazes me all the people on YouTube. Oh yes, I've got a hell of a lot of catching up. But one I was interested in your segment on objective reviews, and I was just so agreeing with that, because some of the times I think some people say, they can't be objective because they were given the product. But then sometimes to me, if you're given it, you can pull it to pieces. And then, he's not objective. He's on the Panasonic side, so he'll do that. And then there's the other one. I've bought the camera, but I'm usually going to say it's good because I'm not going to downgrade my stupidity for buying the damn thing. So I thought that it was quite a good conversation. I thought, how do you get it? But you can only give your opinions, and people have got to respect it's just your opinion in most of the time. So
this is something I really wrestled with, especially before joining the team at Pocketnow. Was balancing my own preferences against what I felt would make for at least entertaining, if not engaging, educational resources. The thing that actually kind of helped a lot of that was the change in audience. When I started writing, mobile electronics were so fresh that I really felt my job was to be an educator. We're talking Palm Pilots and Windows Mobile PDAs. I was denigrated as that nerd at the lunchroom, at the lunch table, for having this pocket computer, and why would anyone ever need that? That's the dumbest thing ever. I was not popular in that regard. And then, consumers caught up, and now, geek is chic. So as that's changed, more of those conversations are happening where people are coming to these videos really well educated and already having made a decision. So I'm not helping them make a purchasing decision. I'm either going to be that guy who confirms the purchase that they've already made, or I'm going to be the guy who's attacking their lifestyle, because those are the labels and those are the logos that identify them. They might be Apple, they might be Samsung, they might be LG, they might be HTC, they might be Sony cameras, they might be Canon cameras, they might be Nikon or Nikkor glass, all of that stuff. That's become a label that means as much to a techie as an LV label might mean to someone who's really into fashion, haute couture, and expensive purses. And so I feel like as we've gotten into this YouTube commentary, a major aspect of this is intellectual honesty and consistency, where I can't be objective. There are things I need to get done during my day, and some products do a better job of achieving that than others. But I can do a few things to mitigate my end of the conversation so people at least know where I'm coming from. So if I'm just up front, these are the things that I like, these are the things that I don't, these are the compromises I can live with, and this is how I'm judging this product. Then when I get into the review, I can say, the claims of the manufacturer were this, does the product live up to those claims, and then who is this product for? And then step 3 of that is, and now let me share with you my personal experiences. And I feel like that's the fairest way to go about any kind of discussion, any kind of review, any kind of examination, or even just any kind of like tips and tricks or tutorial. At least my audience knows where I'm coming from, and they can choose to accept that or disregard it on their own, by their own bias as well. So
it's funny, Juan Carlos, because there's a real trend in some of the manufacturers like Canon. I'll mention them because they're so blatantly obvious. They come out with like a new cinema camera, and immediately within a week or two, you've got 20 of the top cinema camera people coming out with the same exact review, the same points in exact order. And some of them improvise a little, but not much. And you just go, they just had 20 people do a commercial for exactly the same thing in the same order and claim it's their own review.
Yeah.
And you just go, that's not a review. That's just, you're just telling anybody what they want you to hear, not what you experienced. Maybe they agreed with it, but the same order, the same words. It's like, really? What's the coincidence of that? And they keep doing it.
This is absolutely germane to gaming laptops and smartphones and everything else across the board, where the embargo lifts, the NDAs expire, and day one reviews. So the product is only available to pre-sale for consumers, and yet the internet has just been flooded with reviews. Those reviewers weren't given time to really use, live with, examine the merits or the demerits of an individual product. And unfortunately, to ride that wave of SEO value, to ride that, to crest that wave of popularity, you end up building so much of that off of a week's experience and the press review kit. And so there just seems to be a flow for what happens in a review. You talk about this, you examine the outside of it, you use it, and then you talk about whether or not you liked it. And so I don't believe that there's a significant amount of collusion in that regard. I don't believe Canon is supplying scripts and telling people this is how you do your videos, but I think we've all just sort of agreed upon a format that makes it increasingly likely that you're going to end up at the same place with the same general talking points based on the same reviewer's guide materials, just so that you can get your video out early. And if you don't hit that initial launch window, your potential success on a video streaming platform like YouTube drastically falls off. It's just logarithmic. And I appreciate it. It bothers me, and I try not to participate. I mean, like, I'm getting my iPhone today. I'm going to start my iPhone commentary 2 weeks after day 0 launch day reviews went out live. So many people are really not going to be interested in what I have to say about this phone, but I have a community that is willing to engage beyond just day 1, day 0 reviews. So I'm making these videos for them. And maybe they'll be evangelists. Maybe they'll help spread the word. Maybe they'll, watch a video and then walk away and never talk to me ever again. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
we have
that's the only way I can kind of live with myself and sleep at night is to work that way.
Yep, Harold, you have a question?
We have a viewer comment. It is from Aditya Anil, who says, while ads are meant to sell the product, a review is supposed to give the pros and cons of a product, meant to educate the consumer instead of brainwash them.
Yeah, so Aditya is actually someone who comments regularly on my, especially on my podcast. So I very much enjoy getting in discussions with Aditya. The thing that I think a lot of YouTubers fall into, the trap, I should say, that a lot of YouTubers fall into, I don't believe this is conscious. I don't believe it's by design. But you start to get a vibe. You start to get a feel for the audience that resonates with your content, and that becomes reinforcing. So you put your heart and soul into making a video on the OnePlus 6, and then you put a bunch of time and effort into making a video for the iPhone, and then the SEO on that return starts to influence the direction that you take future videos.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you got way more traffic on that OnePlus 6 video than you did on your iPhone video. Well, you kind of push iPhone commentary to the side a little bit more. You put a little less effort into that, or it becomes sort of a conclusion before you started it that more people are going to respond, or more people are going to react on this side. So let me do something over here. And that starts to weigh really heavily in, it's like can a documentary be objective? Well, you're choosing where to point the camera. So already you've got a bias. You pointed it there instead of there. So you're biased against the left-handed people. So I think it just sort of reinforces itself that you then become known for that thing, or you become you sort of stack the deck in that direction, because you do better on YouTube that way. You do better in search results with Google that way. Your ad metrics go up. Everything sort of feels like it's fair, but you have unconsciously decided to walk that path, and then that also then colors your future commentary. Like if I come out and really criticize the next OnePlus phone, my audience is going to feel betrayed by that.
Yep.
And so I'm going to be careful about my criticisms here, but that means that I can go way off on an HTC, because HTC fans really aren't watching my videos, and it's just going to confirm to OnePlus fans that they made the right choice in not buying an HTC, and then that perpetuates and that reinforces itself, and you get proper stuck in that kind of pattern of behavior.
And there's another thing that happens with YouTube, and I guess this is kind of mob mentality of people who come to watch shows, but you'll do a show with a guest, and then somebody doesn't like that guest, and they say, we thought you were better than that, but obviously you have no taste, and you have no reason to exist. You should die. And it's like, geez. Sorry, we didn't know. We'll check with you next time on who we hire. Thanks.
Right.
But it's amazing that some of the comments we've gotten, and we haven't really gotten too many death threats, though we've gotten some like almost that type, but you do get some nasties, and you just go, you ever hear of a discussion? No discussion. There can be no discussion. You've been judged, juried, and executioned. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be at least compassionate, because when I get those kinds of comments, it's very clear that an individual is probably dealing with
something,
their own issues. I mean, I've had a few even this week where it's like that person went off the rails, is not commenting at all on anything that I've been discussing on my channel. And I do get into a lot of politics, so I'm drawing some of this fire legitimately. I really like debating people who disagree with me on some of the tech and politics comments that I've been digging into recently.
But see, that's good, though. The debate is good, because nobody listens to anybody. So it's just everybody's stuck in their little, talking points, if you will. And as a result, how often can you get a conversation going? Not often.
No, not often. And it's to that point, even when I am talking to someone that I know disagrees with me, I've actually been very lucky of late, after years of pruning and trimming in my YouTube comments and hiding people that are just there to be disruptive or are bad actors or not really looking to join a conversation in earnest, that I know that there are a number of people who tune in every podcast that I stream live who definitely don't agree with me on a number of these topics. But the one thing that we've all been able to land on is we all acknowledge there are problems. And that has been one of the most exciting aspects of these smaller podcast conversations that I've been having. Smaller in terms of audience. Like I might get 1,000 views on one of these podcasts, talking about an enormous audience yet. But the thing that I think we've all been able to arrive at is we all agree on what reality is, and that there is a problem. now. What we're going to fight tooth and claw about is how to fix the problem.
Sure.
And outside of that little bubble, I think that's been the biggest challenge facing us, and why so many people are having these knee-jerk and visceral, anonymous, hateful social media speeches. We live in an era right now where people can't agree on what reality is.
That's
a good one. Very
Yep.
disturbing.
Yep.
We can't even agree on what the problem is. We'll never come to a consensus and a compromise, because that's what it should be. It should be a compromise. As a left-leaning individual, I should not get everything that I want. That would destroy our country. But the flip side of that is the other side. The more conservative-leaning side should never get everything that they want. That would destroy our country. Reality needs to land somewhere where we push and pull, with both sides leaving the table kind of pissed off that they didn't get everything that they wanted. That's the only way we can survive as a culture and as a country.
Yeah, I remember growing
that's
up.
what's been really exciting, is finding a few more people that are willing to at least follow my thread, listen to me, then call me an idiot and tell me why I'm wrong, as opposed to just opening salvo is you're wrong and you're an idiot, and I'm going to try and deplatform you.
That's funny. Well, we're almost out of time. Geoff, any finals?
I'll just kind of say I must have been censored, because during that conversation I got blanked out, and then I came back again to see what
you did?
technology is. But I'll be interested to see your iPhone review there, because I'm one of these people. Yes, I've changed my phone, but I only changed it when my old iPhone 4 when it just totally died, so I went for the 6. But now I'm just getting bombarded with carriers and things, emails saying, you've got to upgrade to this new fantastic phone, and I still can't see
I would really try and advocate. I would really try and advocate. This is not unique to Apple. For anyone, try and hold on to these things as long as you can. The cost in materials, the cost in human labor, the profits that these companies are trying to extract from their various tech communities. I do not see where the year-to-year or 2-year-to-2-year upgrades are really that significant anymore. I'm a part of the hype train. I make these videos in trying to join this discussion and really reaching out to enthusiasts. And so I'll handily own that I'm part of the problem. But I'm coming to the iPhone XS. I actually have it right here. My daily driver iPhone to date was an iPhone SE. So this is 6S era tech. And a major part of what I'm going to be looking at going into the iPhone XS is Apple is making an argument for why a phone should cost $1,000. They're making this argument when phones have never been more fragile, have never been more delicate, more prone to being broken, when they don't connect to actual standards like headphones. You can't connect your phone directly. You can't connect headphones directly to the phone. And now they don't even include the dongle in the box. So I'm coming from an iPhone SE. This argument that, well, if you're buying the iPhone XS, you probably already have a headphone dongle, so Apple shouldn't need to include it, is bogus. So many people in my circles of family and friends are coming from iPhone 5Ss, iPhone 6s, iPhone 6Ss. And now I need to go to them and say, if you want to stay in the iOS ecosystem, you spend at least, $750, $700 for one of the lesser than iPhones, and then you buy a case. And then you buy a headphone adapter if you need one, if you don't have Bluetooth in your car. And you probably need to buy Apple Care, because if you break the back glass on an iPhone, it's $400 plus to repair it. So out the door with your cheap iPhone, you're probably getting close to $1,000 if you weren't fully accessorized beforehand. And this is not, in my opinion, the direction that I would like to see this consumer market go. This doesn't necessarily immediately impact me over the next year, because I don't really use iOS devices as my daily drivers. But it affects my family, it affects my friends, it affects numerous people in my social circles. And then by the end of 2019, 2020, what's to keep a Samsung or an LG or any of these other competitors from jacking up their prices too, because they can? The Galaxy S10 can now be $900, because, wow, that's a bargain against a $1,000 iPhone, when we used to say $600 was way too much to ever spend on a smartphone.
Well, this one was, I think, $950 or something. This is the Note 9 or whatever it is, 8, 9,
so
9.
So we can have a rational conversation. Samsung sells the Note 9 for $1,000.
Yep.
What is it
thrown
that...
it on the bench and broken it?
Yeah, I've never broken one yet.
Put that in the title. You'll get so much YouTube traffic. You'll love it.
Also, the thing is, I only got it because my other one was starting to get... I didn't like my 8 that much. It was okay, but it was sort of boring. I said, well, let me get this one. So it's exactly the same, just a little different. And you just go, that was good. Yep. And
well, in closing up, I was just going to say, in closing up, you've definitely got a new fan in me, because one of the things I do like what you're doing with a lot of your reviews, and that is getting I saw that one on the 361 camera, not so much of the feature of the camera, but how can you use it? Because there's so many things going out there. This is what it does. Yeah, but what does that mean to me? Like you said, anybody can watch. Yeah, you do a 360 thing, and you're driving in the car. Really exciting. But how do you use it? And that's the thing we are missing. And I like those YouTubes better than I can see tons of reviews. This is what the product does. Yeah. But how does somebody just out with the camera or that? How do they use that? So I'll really keep that good work up, and I'm going to start watching a lot more of your videos now. I know you're there.
Well, I appreciate you joining the conversation on a lot of this stuff, because that's a major part of what's going to happen at the end of this year. Is I can't just spend $1,000 on an iPhone. Ultimately, $1,400 on an iPhone before I've put a case on it, before I've put a screen protector on it, before I've tried to plug headphones into it. And just talk about, well, the phone does this, and you swipe up to go home, and it's the same conversation that everyone else has had.
Yep.
Apple is making an argument for why a totally normal, doesn't really do anything special smartphone should cost $999. That's a different conversation than what Samsung is having for a Note 9, and why a Note should cost $999. And that's a different conversation.
With the Note, with the Note, why it costs so much, because you have all this surprise always building up. Will it explode? Will it not? Who knows? Every morning is a new day.
We had one go up. I'm really hoping we don't see a trend.
Yeah, I saw that one. I went, oh no, don't start that. Because I had the 7, I had to turn it back in. I had no problem, but you never knew.
Yeah.
Anyway, here the iPhone starts at 1679, so that's what it starts at. And so the 256 gig at 10s is 1879, and then it's 2.4 for the height. And I thought, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's getting a bit much. I don't think anyone would ever fight me too much on the notion that Apple as a label has never represented, an aggressive, consumer-friendly price-performance ratio. There's always been a little fashion brand built into that Apple logo, but now that we're into phones as commodities, they're trying. I feel like they're trying to leverage their locked-in consumers, and now this is the cost of keeping your iMessage bubbles blue. You don't want to be one of those green iMessage bubblers. $750 to start, and then taxes, and then cases, and then accessories, and then better headphones, and you can just keep it coming because you got to keep up with the Joneses. And that's not where I want Apple to go. Not from when I was an Apple product specialist back in the old Power Mac days. Now as a consumer tech reviewer, I really feel like we could be having a better relationship, a better conversation with Apple and consumers than
That's funny. We always have Geoff and I always have this discussion, because he's more of a Mac guy and I'm more of a PC guy, though I have Macs. I don't think the iOS is getting any better. Not iOS, the Mac OS. I'm finding it. I liked it better about 3-4 versions ago, and now I'm finding it less and less interesting. I also don't like the design work they're doing. The flat look is good sometimes, but it doesn't always look good. So on the new Macs, to me, they look just more, cold, whereas before they were much warmer. It's just an interesting aside.
And I think it's pretty clear where they're putting more of their effort.
Yeah.
iOS makes them a ton more money than Mac OS. And I think that's where we've seen much better progress. From iOS 9, 10 and 11 were not very good operating systems. And now iOS 12 has been much, much better.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen the same kind of evolution in ebb and flow and excitement from the Mac OS side of the equation, nor from the hardware either. I don't think Apple is really putting the resources and the dedication behind those teams, which is a shame for creative professionals who rely on this kind of gear. It's not enough to say, well, just go get a Surface. I like using Windows, but that's not helpful. If that's my recommendation to someone who's struggling in the Mac and iOS camp, that just makes me a douchebag.
Well, what probably the next will be an iPhone 27-inch with a plug-in keyboard.
That'd be cool.
Yes, that we can connect
interesting.
It'll be just a huge iPhone that sits on a desktop. So.
Yeah.
Love it. It's gorgeous.
I do love the iPad Pros. They've been great. I have one of the small ones and one of the big ones, and I just love them. They're very good devices, and I'll take that over a Surface.
Yeah,
my wife has a Surface.
Because I think they were just a little bit too early to calling a tablet a Pro. When the first generation iPad Pro came out, there wasn't the software to really take advantage of what it was that they were trying to do. But now, I mean, like one of these videos that I'm going to be doing on a future Android phone that I almost said that I probably shouldn't have said out loud. I am writing scripts, recording voiceover, doing all of the photography, all of the video, editing, rendering, putting in transitions, titles, graphics, inserts. I can chroma key and end up with a 4K video export, which is then uploaded to social media, all from the phone screen.
No file from the phone, or that's from your phone,
all
or
from the phone.
From the phone, that's pretty good.
Completely from the phone. And so where Apple did start that conversation with iPad Pro, encouraging app developers to kind of catch up to more desktop grade software, the rest of the industry has benefited from that.
That's great.
And so now it's completely.
We have another comment.
Oh, we have one more comment from the
one
audience.
more comment from Aditya,
who
says the uniqueness of each device and OS is gradually diminishing. The end users are humans who have certain preferences. The only difference is how well the software and hardware work.
I would agree. I mean, look at the in mobile. It's been huge watching Google and Apple basically arrive at the same place. Anyone who's still saying Android is ugly is years out of date, and anyone who's saying iOS is incomplete. I mean, they finally added a file manager to iOS a couple years ago. I mean, they're essentially landing at the same place now, and it's very, very minor and granular, the differences between them.
Yep, that's true. Well, Juan Carlos, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and talking, and like I said, I feel I've known you. I've watched you so long. It's like, don't I know him? I think we're friends from somewhere. But anyway, hey, it's been a real pleasure. And hopefully we can get you back on again, because we can continue the conversations. It's fun.
I would absolutely love to come back, guys. This is fun, and this went by quick. I mean, I looked down at the clock.
It did. I just looked at we're on almost an hour, so we're a half hour more than normal. So we're obviously enjoying ourselves, as you can tell. But next time I'm somewhere in your area, if you come out to Camarillo, give me a call. We'll have lunch or do something.
That'd be great.
That'll be fun.
And I'll come out and have coffee too. It's only a 14-hour trip, and I'll come and have coffee.
Yeah, and you've got a place to stay, Geoff.
Just let me know. Just give me a little bit of advance notice, and then I'll be there.
Right.
That sounds great. Well, I think Geoff's coming out next year, so maybe we'll make that happen.
Do a whole team meetup. I think that would be great.
That'd be cool. That'd be a lot of fun.
Exercises. Go hit a paintball range. It'll be a good time.
Yep. Well, for you guys in the chat room, or whoever's in the chat room, Aditya, thank you for being there. And if you are watching, so please subscribe. And we will see you next week. Juan Carlos, again, thanks a lot. And Geoff, I'll give you a call tomorrow. Have a good one, everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.